מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח. אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח. ויף על פי שישמעיה עם כל זה אחכה אלוהי, ויף על פי שישמעיה עם כל זה אחכה אלוהי. Da 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 da, ay da 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 da, ay da 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 da, ay da ay da 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 da, ay da 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 da, da 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 da, ay da da. Yani maamin, ani maamin, באמונה שלמה, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח. די 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 די, ay da ya mama, ay ya mama, da da da, ay da 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 da, ay ya da da da, ah da 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 da, da 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 ma ya da 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 da, ah da 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 da, ay 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 da 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 da, ah da 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 da. ויף על פי שישמעיה עם כל זה אחכה אלוהי, ויף על פי שישמעיה עם כל זה אחכה אלוהי. Okay, good morning, brothers. This is our last year, month of Nisan. Month of Nisan has been sponsored by the Kram family, Lilin Ishmael, Shoshana Reisel, Bas David Dov, Yitzchak Aryeh ben Nachum, Reb Israel ben Yosef Tuvia, and Necha Bas Ephraim Zalman Berachel, and by the Sternberg family, B'Yifir Refuah Shlema for Sarifka Bas Chana Rus, and by David and Nancy Smith in the Mazel Tov on a granddaughter, and on the Yortzeit of Moshe ben Shaul Yitzchak. The week is sponsored by my holy in-laws in loving memory of Bina's grandmother, Pesi Elka Bas Nachman Moshe, and by Avram and Miriam Deutsch for Refuah Shlema for Peril Blima Bat Sarah, Moshe Zelig ben Rachel Minda, and Gadi ben Tzvia B'Silch Shar Choli Am Yisrael. Okay, today we're going to do something different. When I was learning with the Chevra and the Kollel yesterday, these guys that are Be'ezeh Hashem going to be future Mashpim in Am Yisrael. So the whole year I'm trying to do whatever I can to give over to them what does it mean to be a Pnimiyas Dika Mashpi in Am Yisrael in these days. And Baruch Hashem, I remembered that there is a piece that explains so much better than I ever could what I'm trying to convey, what I'm trying to say, and also what I'm trying to myself live on a day-to-day basis all the time. So it goes like this. In 1987, Rav Shlomo was invited to Lincoln Square Synagogue in Manhattan to give over a a session, whatever you want to call it, trying to explain what does it mean to be a Chassid in the world today after Auschwitz, after the 6 million. It was a video that I got hold of, recorded by someone who actually just left the world a few weeks ago. His name was Reb Lazer Garner. He was one of Reb Shlomo's old Talmidim from the House of Love and Prayer, also a Talmud of Reb Aryeh Kaplan. A very, very special Yid. He just passed away, so I want this to be Lili Nishmasa. He had a whole stack of recordings of videos that he did, filming Reb Shlomo and many, many shiurim, concerts, a bunch of different things. And this was one of the recordings, this video, and the sound was really, really very hard, very shvach. And when I first got this was probably like 10, 12 years ago. It wasn't like, today we have a lot more technology, how to basically better the sound quality of these things and the visual of these things. Be'ezer Hashem, later today, it'll be up and uploaded, the actual video of what I'm saying, with better sound, not as good as it deserves. But I remember working on this piece for many weeks, because you had to really listen, you had to really pay attention to each word he was saying, and stop and pause and go back. And it was really an amazing, amazing experience. And every year around this time, I try to learn this piece that's now edited. It's still not what it needs to, the level that it needs to be put out there. But for me, this is Yom HaShoah, it's Yom HaZikaron, and it's Yom HaAtzmaut, and it's the Baal Shem Tov, all in one piece. That's a tall order. That's big. That's big. I have one request whenever we learn these Reb Shlomo Torahs. I always say this, just because I love you guys enough and I care about the point of our getting together. It'd be easy to just send this out and tell you to read it. But when we're learning it inside here, treat it like you're learning Gemara. You don't run ahead in the Gemara unless the words really got into you. So even though it's in English, try not to read ahead so that we can learn each piece here together. They have a siren this morning? 10? Okay, so if someone could point out to me, if we are nearing 10, just to point out to me. But I want to do this piece inside. It's also, by the way, it doesn't always work out like this, but it's also Parshas Kedoshim, because it also explains to us what it means to be a true Emes Dika Kodesh in today's day and age. Now, there'll be things in here that he's going to say, that he'll already say, while he's saying it, basically, forgive me, I know I'm going to get you angry. That's kind of what he says over here. But you have to understand that this was a person that saw it all. He felt it all, he lived through it, he breathed it, and he's giving over to us a gift, okay? A real gift. Today's Chassidim after Auschwitz. We're living in an unbelievable age. Throughout history, we've gone through so much, but in this one generation of ours, so much has happened. It's not to be believed. You realize what we've gone through within the last 50 years? So remember, he said this in 87, okay? So he's saying in the last 50 years, from 1987, do you realize how much we've gone through? Now just up that by another 40 years, and add that to how much we've gone through. You see, a Yid that lived in 1880, Mashkazeh, and he said, can you believe what we've been through in the last 50 years? What did you really go through in the last 50 years? It's more or less the same. It's just really bad for Yidden, and that's it. A few simchas here and there. But you can't say that anymore. In our time, we have to understand this. Just to think for a second. In our time, how much we've gone through. In the last 100 years, how much we've gone through in one door. Since the destruction of the Holy Temple, there's never been something as terrible as the 6 million. Since the destruction of the Temple, we didn't go back to the Holy Land, like we have gone back in our generation. And Nebuch, the wars in Israel continue. On the other hand, in a crazy way, there's an unbelievable awakening in the world. I'm sure it's clear to you, the awakening is not only by the Jews, but there's also a tremendous awakening in the whole world. There's such a hunger and a thirst for something deep and powerful. So let's start from the other side. What's the meaning of death? Death is when the body and soul are not close anymore. On a very pashut level. There's a pirud between guf and neshama, and they're resulting in death. But death doesn't only take place between the body and the soul. If I love somebody very much and I suddenly forget their name, then the love died. If last week I kept Shabbos like the Baal Shem Tov, and next week I don't want to keep Shabbos anymore, and I just don't care what happened, Shabbos died. What happens to so many thousands of young people who went to yeshivas and are burning up with fire, and then suddenly they decided, who cares? I'll cut off my beard and my payas. I don't want to be a Jew anymore. The connection, the closeness died. He's saying you have to understand, that's death. When you were close, and then you weren't close. That's a form of death. Death takes place when I stop being close to that which I was once close to. And what the world is looking for the most is being close. This, by the way, this can also be an amazing, it's not a mission statement because it's much too long for a mission statement, but if you want to give over what we're trying to do in the shul here, it's the same exact thing. After Auschwitz, Gewalt is the world looking for closeness. They're crying for it. Why are so many marriages breaking up today, which is of course sad, but can also be a good sign? Because people want closeness. And he'll explain here. Okay? This is a hard statement. When someone got married 100 years ago, it was enough if her father's a ger Chassid and his father is a ger Chassid, and he liked kugel on Shabbos, and she liked kugel on Shabbos. He likes her sheitel, and she likes her sheitel. So they're just madly in love with each other. And you should know, that's kind of more or less what was for many, many, many years. Like Rav Shlomo once said, the difference between today and thousands of years ago, and for 4,000 of years, the Gemara says, Kashin zivugin kekriyas yamsuf, that to find your zivug is as hard as crossing the Red Sea. Back in the day, it was our parents that crossed the Red Sea for us because they told us who we're getting married to. Today, Gewalt, is it hard because we have to cross the Red Sea by ourselves to find our zivug. Unless you're just still totally in old school, which is also a sweetness to it, but it's not really what's happening today. Today we want more than that. We want so much more. What people want today is closeness. Now here, this is Charif. Maybe 100 years ago we would consider certain people as being very holy, but today we have our doubts. I'm not talking about the real tzaddikim, God forbid. I'm not touching the real Rebbe's chas v'shalom. I'm talking about the Chassidish Yid with the Streimel and a Bekesha who's considered holy. But the only thing is that he hits his children. And sometimes he might be hitting his wife too. 100 years ago, this person was considered holy. Today, and then he screamed, damn him. Damn him. You think God needs his Shabbos? You think God needs his Streimel? Now let me share with you a Torah from Reb Tzadok HaKohen. Reb Tzadok HaKohen says that the world thinks that as the generations are further away from what once was, we're going down and down and down, becoming less and less religious. It's what we call Yeridas Hadoros, Yeridat Hadorot, the descending of generations. Reb Tzadok says, let me tell you a Torah which I heard from my Heilige Rebbe the Ishbitzer, who heard from the Yida Kodesh of Pshischa, who heard from the Holy Lubliner, who heard from Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi said that the outside is maybe not so clean anymore, and maybe on the outside we don't look so holy anymore, but the inside is getting more and more pure. After the 6 million, we're living in a world where every person must decide for themselves which side they're on. Am I judging people by the outside, or am I an inside person? On the inside, I meet you and ask you where you buy your meat. Where do you daven? On the outside, I meet, thank you. On the outside, I meet you and ask you where you buy your meat. Where do you daven? Where do you send your kids to school? But this is all outside stuff. I'm sure you keep kosher. I'm sure you go to shul. And I'm sure you're sending your kids to Jewish school. Right? The questions have all become hashkafa, 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 hashkafa. Beautiful. It's outside, outside, outside. The question I have today after the 6 million is, how much have you cleansed yourself from anger? How do you look at other people? How much do you love every Jew in the world? Tell me the sad truth. How much are you ready to give your life for the lowest Jew in the world? That's hashkafa. That's the hashkafa we need to be asking ourselves. Hashkafa can be the most outside thing in the world, or it can be the most pnimiyistic thing in the world. The shaila is, what do you define as hashkafa? You know, so often, like the first honest question that many people have here is, where do you send your kids to school? It's true. That's an important question. But these are I want to build and grow with people that have these questions in their hearts just as much, if not more. What I would like to ask is, how much do you love the world? The world is God's creation. Don't say that you love God, but you can't stand people in the world. And if he says, I just can't stand them, I say to him, brother, you may have been a big tzaddik 100 years ago, but not today, because the world is growing up. And here I want to open up even more. Rav Nachman says that when a person is very sick, he needs strong medicine. The more a person is, God forbid, sick, the greater the doctor has to be. It could have been that until the Second World War, we were able to manage by just keeping the Torah, learning Gemara and Tosfos. Now, I'm not, God forbid, saying that the Yidden were not inside Jews, but they may have been inside Jews without this fire, without this awesomeness. After the 6 million? After the 6 million, something opened up. What happened after the 6 million? Now, this is the key statement of this piece. This is the key. What happened after the 6 million? In order to keep on believing in God, you have to be very close to God. Because otherwise, you just can't make it. Unless I'm very, very close to God, I just can't make it. Now, I want to stop here for a second. This is the Nakuda. I want to make sure everyone understood what he just did over here. What he's saying over here is all of our shiurim. It's anything we've ever learned. It's the ambiance. It's the attempt to create something here that gives over this paragraph. That unless I feel close to Hashem, close to God, after the 6 million, I won't make it. You know why? Because it's so easy to shoot a dart of suffix based on what our eyes have seen. Now, we could say the same thing about October 7th. It's so easy to shoot a dart of suffix into my heart after what we've been through as Jewish people that can easily take me away, and I can justify it, to the utmost. Therefore, in order to make it, in order to really give over emesdige Yiddishkeit to my children, and for me to feel like I'm a real Yid, I have to be close to God. As simple as it is, I have to understand what it means to be close to Hashem. And that takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of rerouting. It takes a lot of redefining. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts because we've put up a lot of different chomot of preservation. But what ended up happening is that you're left with a Yiddishkeit that is cold. Cold. And we're going to get back to that in a second. There's only one medicine against anger, which all of us have. It's impossible not to be. And that is closeness. When you're close to somebody, anger disappears. I cannot be angry at someone who's standing right next to me. I can't stand next to them. The question is, friend, do you feel God standing next to you or not? Like when you walk into shul, or when you're walking down the street, when we're sitting here right now, do you sense the Ribono Shel Olam right here with you, which is in essence answering the question of the title of this shir that he was asked to give? What does it mean to be a chassid after the 6 million? What does it mean to learn Chassidus after the 6 million? Do you feel the Ribono Shel Olam right there? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid, da lifnei miyat ha'omed, the whole thing. Chaver ani l'chol asher yireucha. Now let me ask you something. And this is going to be hard to understand. I hope we're able to take this in the right way. Can you imagine how many gates God opened for us after the 6 million? The absolute deepest gates in the world, the gates of being close to Him again. Anyone have a problem with that last statement? Because I do. I have to work through. I have to work through this all the time. But what he's saying, and the Krakow Nigun, is actually a hamchasha. How do you say hamchasha? What's that? It's like a realization, an illustration to make real what this last thing is. You know the Krakow Nigun, right? That Rav Shlomo wrote in the Ramaz Shul in Poland, in Krakow. Itamar's favorite. Itamar. It's good you're here today too. I think it's one of your favorite nigunim. Right? Slow, slow, slow. Pain, tears, craziness. Going into the depth of the pain, and then seeing the Yidden coming out of the other side of the gas chambers into Yerushalayim Shel Mala, and creating new gates for us to walk through. That realize that unless I'm close, I won't make it. So they themselves opened up gates for us to go through the gates of kirva, of closeness. I had an amazing experience. The last time I was in Poland, everyone went to the gas chamber, but because all I'm thinking about is Rav Shlomo and this Krakow Nigun, I didn't go to the gas chamber. I went outside the gas chamber to where the smoke was coming out, and I stood there. It was insane. I took a picture of myself right there by the chimney because of this nigun. And I looked at a picture of my children.
You expand a little bit?
He will, not me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's saying that the gates open.
Steve, today's a different shir. You got to let him. It's not, I'm telling you. I could, no, I know. I could, but he's going to, I'm telling you, if he doesn't, call me out on it. And then we'll go back to it, but he will. He will. The basic difference, next page. The basic difference between Misnagdim and Chassidim is very simple. For Misnagdim, the essence is to do everything God wants you to do. And please don't read me wrong. I'm not saying that Misnagdim are not close to God. But by Misnagdim, being close is like a little bonus. If you're close, it's also very nice. But if not, you still get by. By Chassidim, the whole thing is closeness. I don't want to learn Gemara just to know the Gemara. I want to learn Gemara because I want to be close to God. I want every word of the Gemara to bring me close to God. Can you imagine if people actually approached Daf Yomi like this? You know what would happen? They would stop learning Daf Yomi.
I was going to say that's great.
They would stop learning Daf Yomi, and they would start to learn a few lines every day. You have to understand, Reb Meir Shapira instituted the Daf Yomi when?
1922.
Before World War II. So he's not saying, this is what's hard for us to comprehend here. He's not saying don't, but he's saying if you're going to do it on the level of that I'm learning to be close to you, Hashem. And that's why I'm saying that this piece is hard, because it puts a lot of holy practices that we do on the line. It really does. And here I want to share something very deep with you. Look what he does here. Every Friday night we're saying Kol Mekadesh Vi Kara'ui Lo. Right, Chevra? Everyone here sings Kol Mekadesh Vi Kara'ui Lo, or not yet? Make a Kabbalah on yourselves that from this Friday night, you're going to be saying Kol Mekadesh Vi. First, we're going to look at Kol Mekadesh before Shabbos, so you know what you're saying a little bit. The words of Kol Mekadesh Vi are Kodesh Elyon, the holiest words. And every single bencher. Every beer con.
It's the first one on this beer show.
Every Friday night we're saying Kol Mekadesh Vi Kara'ui Lo. Whoever keeps the seventh day like it's supposed to be. Now look at the diuk here. Whoever keeps Shvi, the seventh day, like it's supposed to be. But then we say, Kol Shomer Shabbos, Kadas Mechalalo. But all those that keep Shabbos and mamish do it like a gewalt. And the Gemara says, Al Tikri Mechalalo, Ela, there's a typo here, Ela Machul Lo. Meaning, when you keep Shabbos, it's as if all the things that weren't so good during the week, it's all forgiven. And then we say scharo harbe me'od, which means that some people keep the seventh day, and some people keep Shabbos. And if you keep Shabbos, then your reward is endless. Now, what's the difference between keeping the seventh day and keeping Shabbos? Do you know what the seventh day is? When you talk about the seventh day, it's still a little bit in comparison to the rest of the week. That's Yom HaShvi. All week long, I prepare myself, and on Shabbos, I'm higher. But that's only in regards to the sixth day of the week. You know what Shabbos is? It's not that it's higher than the 6 days. It's not that it's more beautiful. It's a different world. We're living in a challenging world with so many struggles. When Shabbos comes, I don't want to be just a little bit holier, a little bit better, a little bit deeper. On Shabbos, I want to be in a completely different world. How do you know how much you love somebody? If I love this girl very much and in her presence, I feel better, more peaceful and elevated. It's cute enough for a little date on a Sunday afternoon. But what does it mean to really love somebody? In their presence, I'm somewhere else. Imagine I have a vacation and I can go upstate to the mountains, but it's still near New York City. But if I choose to go to Singapore, this is mamish somewhere else. You know what the Holy Baal Shem Tov taught us? Shabbos is not more holy or more peaceful than the rest of the week. It's not what it is. Look around, friends. Some people are only keeping the seventh day. There are holy Seventh-day Adventists amongst us also. Friday night they eat kugel and they read the Jewish press. And use whatever terminology you need to fill in for whatever the equivalent is today. Okay? Whatever it is. Use whatever the equivalent is. Like there's some people, they have a special Shabbos food and then they have a special Shabbos reading. A book they keep just for Shabbos. Nothing to do with whatever it is.
Stephen King.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more, you're already taking it to a higher level, Mishpach and Ami. I'm thinking Michael Crichton. There's some people, now look what he says here, and this brings us to our Monday and Wednesday shiurim. There are some people who look at Israel like a Seventh-day Adventist also. I usually daven in my shul in Brooklyn, but this Shabbos I happened to be davening by the Holy Wall. Oh, it was better. It was more beautiful. Stupid, right? Do you understand what he was calling? What he's calling out here? Okay, I'm going to say it because it's important. But who do you think he's talking about when he's speaking about like people that, forget Brooklyn, it doesn't matter Brooklyn, anywhere in the world. And Eretz Yisrael is Sukkos.
The citadel.
So it's much deeper when you go to Yerushalayim. It's not much deeper when you go to Yerushalayim. It's a different universe. It's nothing to do with deeper, better, sweeter. The mashu acher legamre. We still within the frum world. Eretz Yisrael is like, oh, you're an Eretz Yisrael Yid? What does that mean, an Eretz Yisrael Yid? When I need some Eretz Yisrael. It's like I need a vitamin. He's saying over here the deepest depths, that you could look at Eretz Yisrael like recharging my batteries. People say that it's very, very hard for me to hear that. I need it to come. I need to recharge my batteries. They mean well. Bemet they do. They're sweet people. But it's not. This is not what we're talking about. It's not what we're talking about. And here he says like this. What's bugging us about Zionism? And you should know, Rav Shlomo was the biggest Zionist in the world, and so not a Zionist like what we call today a Zionist. Understand? Shlomo didn't say Halal and Yom Ha'atzmaut, but Gewalt was he a Zionist. Last Shabbos that he was here in Efrat, they got very angry at him because of Avinu Shebashamayim. He didn't want to say Avinu Shebashamayim. And here, Avinu Shebashamayim, everyone stands up, quiet. It's like Yom Kippur and Ne'ilah. What about Hakol Yaducha? Hakol Shebashamayim? Shmuz with my friend, Kriyas HaTorah, God talking to me, whatever. Avinu Shebashamayim, then we stop. Kodesh Kodashim. Everyone's silent. Stand up. It's Kleinigkeit. You know what that means in Yiddish? Small-mindedness. What's bugging us about Zionism? I hope you share my feelings. I'm not talking about real Zionism. I'm not talking about God's Zionism, Avram Avinu's Zionism. I'm talking about Park Avenue Zionism. They say that the Chinese have Peking, the Germans have Berlin, and we have Jerusalem, and nobody can take it away from us. Does this break your heart? Does this touch you so deep? There's nothing wrong with Peking. It happens to be beautiful. If I tell you that Yerushalayim is more beautiful than Peking, maybe I'm wrong. Is Yerushalayim more beautiful than Amsterdam? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's like we feel like, no, we have to say it's more beautiful than... No, maybe it is, maybe it's not. The beauty of Yerushalayim is not in comparison to anything. But do you know what Yerushalayim is? Yerushalayim is something else. It's not that it's more beautiful than Paris. It's Shabbos. Like what he was saying before.
How many measures of beauty were given to the world, and how many are in Yerushalayim?
But what kind of beauty?
Okay, yeah. It's...
After the gas chambers, this is what the world is so hungry for. The world is so hungry for a few minutes, a few days, for an experience which is so holy and different than anything else in the world. Not something better, something completely different. What happened in the 60s? Why were kids so hungry for drugs? Maybe they didn't know how to do it, but their insides were telling them, I need something so holy. I need something so deep. I look at my parents, their Shabbos is the Seventh-day Adventist. Do you know what those kids reminded us of? You need something so special. You need something so deep to keep you going. You need something you feel close to. That's what these kids, listen, the world looked at those kids. The establishment looked at those kids that checked out. And he was able to look at that whole generation of kids and see what was really going on inside of them. And today, do you know how many hundreds of little Chassidish Yidden with little payas are walking around Yerushalayim? I myself know a few hundred of them. That their grandfather or great-grandfather were heroin junkies in the streets of Hayden-Ashbury. And Rav Shlomo went there and saw them and saw what was really going on inside of them and turned them on to Shabbos and to Tefillin. And if I know of hundreds of Einiklach, there's probably thousands and thousands. We'll never know, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. It's clear to me, and hopefully also to you, if someone says that after the 6 million Chassidus is the same as before, because we have to keep on going, it's not true. It has to be so much deeper. It has to bring you so much closer. Don't you see what happened? The 6 million opened gates for you and I, to make it so much deeper. Orthodoxy is beautiful, but just being Orthodox means that I'm just keeping everything. I need the fire of the Baal Shem Tov. And you know what else I need? I need the fire of Auschwitz. It's still burning. It's not a deadly fire today. It's a fire which gives me strength and courage, because it's clear to me that if my grandparents were killed in Auschwitz, they didn't die so that I could just keep a little Shabbosel, buy Glock kosher meat, and eat gefilte fish on Friday night. They opened gates for me for something so much deeper than all this. You know, friends, the hunger for, this is a very strong line, the hunger for friendship was never as great as it is today. Like never before. I'm sure that since the destruction of the temple, there was never a generation who was so sensitive to friendship. And I want to share the deepest depth with you, as much as it's very simple. This is something, we've seen this concept before. But just to illustrate what is going on in the world, what is actually happening in the world itself. The way God operates is like this. Baruch Hashem, God gave us a 747, and therefore I think that only now I can get to Israel real fast. By the way, when was the 747? When did it come out?
Probably 70s.
So, right. So he's saying, so this is like still relatively fresh, right? It's like within the decade, Mashu Kazeh. He's saying that's not the reason. It's because in today's world I have to get to the Holy Land so fast, and I just can't wait. You know what happened to us after the 6 million, after Auschwitz? I can't wait anymore. When I want to go to Eretz Yisrael, I can't wait to travel by ship, by boat, or by plane for 4 weeks. I want to go on a plane tonight and put on tefillin tomorrow morning by the Holy Wall. This is why we have planes. Do you understand what he just said? The reason we actually have these things in the world today is because it's feeding the real need of the door, of getting places faster, being able to be close to what my heart wants to be close to faster. It's mamish like this with the world of technology. It's not that since there's a telephone, I can therefore call my friends. It's that I need so much to talk to my friends and I cannot wait until I travel and see them. So God puts a telephone in my hand. What a world. You know, most people would listen, most people on the outside people, read a paragraph like this and they say, I always knew Carlebach was a comedian. Anyone with a little bit of a broken heart understands that what he is saying here is bringing us to the pnimius of the way God is running the world today, now. And here I want you to know a Torah from the Holy Baal Shem Tov. Who's the greatest enemy of us Jews? Who's the greatest enemy of God? Amalek. Asher karcha baderech. He made you cold. You know what Amalek says to you? Do everything. Be an Orthodox Jew, but be cold. You want to be married? Okay, but don't be so warm to your wife. You want to go to the Holy Land? Okay, but don't go davening by the kotel every night. You crazy? What for? You might as well stay in the plaza, sleep well, and have a good breakfast the next morning. The Heilige Baal Shem Tov says that Amalek is the essence of our enemy. The greatest enemy of God is cold. And what's the essence of Yiddishkeit? Closeness, heat, the exact opposite. Why don't I kiss the New York Times after I read it on a Sunday morning? You ever been to the library in Columbia University? You know, it's so crazy. It's amazing he's saying this, but you know that he went to Columbia too. Have you seen anyone kiss their books after they finish them? Nobody does. Why? Because there's no closeness between them and the book. I want to ask you something deeper. When I see a book of physics falling on the floor, it never occurs to me to kiss the book. When a Gemara falls on the floor, I kiss it, and maybe I could hear my heart saying, Ribono Shel Olam, I wish I could kiss all the fallen books, all the fallen people, all the broken hearts. I wish I could. Today, it's not a question of being a Chassid or not being a Chassid. You simply cannot be a Jew without the fire of Chassidus. You cannot have a Shabbos without the fire of Chassidus. You just can't. Like Rav Weinberger once said, you know, basically, Chevra, Chassidus won. He said, like the Muslim movement, we all need to have elements of that in our life, but it's not that there was a battle and Chassidus prevailed. It's that after the 6 million, it's not a question of what makes more sense. It's what's my lifeline? Like, how could I keep on going? But you have to remember the purpose of Chassidus in its essence. The Baal Shem Tov's bringing down to the world was about kirva, was about being close. Now, over the years, within the world of Chassidus, that topic has been completely neglected. Now, who was the Rebbe who noticed this about 130 years ago? 140, about 100, 110 years ago. And his whole life was a mission to reestablish the purpose of what the Baal Shem Tov came down to the world to bring. The Piasetzner. The Piasetzner. Piasetzner felt that by his time, remember, the Baal Shem Tov born in 1698. He reveals himself in 1734. The Plonimus Kalman of Piasetzner comes on the scene when? The beginning of the 20th century, and then he starts writing. The books start coming out in either 1919 or 1920. Okay? And when you look at all the Sfarim, all of them, B'nei Machshava Tova, Chovas Talmidim, Chsharas Avrechim, Mavor Sha'arim, obviously Yesh Kodesh, different world, but Derech HaMelech, all the Sfarim of the Piasetzner is to reestablish that this was the purpose of the Baal Shem Tov. It just got lost over the years. Yeah.
I was once in a meeting with all the English-speaking Chassidim of the Talmud Rebbe, and we asked him, what's with the derech of the Baal Shem Tov? That was the question everyone wanted to know. Like, where? And it's like, so the Rebbe said that he has a Masorah, and it goes back from the Divrei Chaim and the Satmarov and those kind of big tzaddikim from that time, that the Masorah is that the derech of the Baal Shem Tov sort of went into hiding. Like it's not the mainstream. And that's the Metzias. And you just got to sort of find it yourself. But it's not the Metzias and the Chassid. And that's how the Rebbe explained it to the. So it's meaning it's not, you can't push it. It's not.
So Reb Shlomo is saying that you have to push it. Meaning
it's very painful to hear it.
Right. So Reb Shlomo is saying.
A lot about Shuvas there were like.
Reb Shlomo is saying that if that's my shita, I won't make it. I just won't make it. I have to rekindle this flame of closeness of what it really was in its essence in order to make it. Otherwise, I won't make it. I just won't make it. So again, today.
And the Piers Netzer didn't break through to all the rest of the Chassidim. Why is it? I mean, whoever tried to bring it back. Why didn't
back then, what was the level of communication between people? How far-reaching could things have gotten in his time?
Most of the stuff got buried.
No, not most of the stuff. Only the end. The early publications were published. It's just the Ish Kodesh, and there's one more jug. You know that? There's only 2 out of the 3 jugs were found. There's one more milk carton, that milk jug that is still buried somewhere beneath the streets of Poland. Do you know this? Only 2 out of 3 were found. One more was, I wonder, it's maybe like Megillas Mashiach or something. No one knows what's in there. So,
Yes.
oh, thank you. Today, it's not a question of being a chassid or not being a chassid. You simply can't be a fire without the Jew. You can't be a Jew without the fire of Chassidus. You cannot have Shabbos without the fire of Chassidus. The fire of Chassidus. Not Chassidus. Not Chassidus. I go to a shtivel. We sing a certain nigun. The fire of Chassidus. You cannot sing Lechadoidi without connecting yourself to all the Rebbes who sang Lechadoidi before us. You cannot sing Kol Mekadesh without hearing in the back of your mind all the thousands of Chassidim and Rebbes who were singing Kol Mekadesh with so much fire. And here I'm coming to something very important. If you were angry at me, please forgive me. Do you think all the Chassidim today are really the ones who are bringing out the Baal Shem Tov's Torah in the world? Very far from it. They are Seventh-day Adventists who might be keeping everything with no inside. I'm not saying there are none around who are mamish inside. There are few. And those few are so special. But I want you to know, all those young people who are coming back to Yiddishkeit today, they are much closer to the Baal Shem Tov's Chassidus. I can learn the whole Shas, I can learn every book and not be close to it. I can know one word, just one word of Torah, and I'm so close, so close. So what's the most important thing for us today, for you and me? To find that one word which will reach the deepest depths of our heart, to find one word we feel close to. Now, you should know that this is only about a fifth or a sixth of the shmuz. It's much longer. It's also much more elaborate. It covers a lot of different ground. It's really a pele because it says when you listen to it, you think he sat down for about a month, or 2 months, and he prepared to give over like a whole theology, right, of everything that he's addressing here. I'm sure they told him the title on the way. Yeah, I'm sure it is. He was operating from that place. It's not for us to. It's a different world. It's a different galaxy. We can't understand this, right? But from here, if you want the full transcript, I'll send it out to whoever wants it. I have to go over it because there's a lot of editing that it needs. But for me, every time I sit in this seat or anywhere that Hashem opens my mouth, all I try to do is to give this over. This is all I want to give over. There's nothing else I want to give over. Now, yes, it comes in different flavors, different shapes, different ways, but the inside is this. And even when we talk, especially when we talk a lot about Zionism and about Eretz Yisrael and the Monday and Wednesdays Shiurim, this is the same exact thing. You know why? Because if we were really close to Hashem's Zionism, to Avraham Avinu's Zionism, close, no way we would have ended up in any of the messes that we're in today. It'd be impossible. We ended up with such messes that we're in today because we thought that you could be a misnagdish Zionist. You understand? A misnagdish Zionist, which means what? If I'm really close to it, it's a bonus, it's a luxury. But, en malasot, got to keep on going, got to fight the good fight. This piece, people ask me, like, who's the greatest Baal Musar you ever had? He is. Because this is all Musar to me, this piece. This is not fluff. To me, this is like the greatest Musar. But it's the type of Musar that, with a broken heart, can be poil, immediately. On a Lamaisa level, the question is, how do I implement this? Because we're always about implementing, right? How do I implement this with my next, whatever I have to do today? Whatever it is. You're going to go home, if your wife's at home, talking to your wife, seeing your children later today. Seeing your, to be a Chassid of the Baal Shem Tov, you don't need to be sitting and learning the Toldos Yaakov Yosef on the Parsha in the Beis Medrash in order to feel like you're connected to the fire of the Baal Shem Tov. You need to realize that after Auschwitz, being close to your children is just as holy, if not maybe holier. And that's hard for us to comprehend. It's not the way we're wired. It's not the way the chinuch gives over all the things we learn about Torah v'chozeh. But then when I go back to the Sefer, the question is, you see, if the closeness to that which is so precious to me becomes more and more important to me, I can't go back to a Sefer and treat it like the outside. Then when I learn something, I want to learn it because I want to be close to Hashem. That's why I open up the Gemara. That's why I open up the Shulchan Aruch. And that's why I open up all those Chassidish Sfarim as well, not just to feel high. Not just to feel higher than I was before. It's to feel close. To feel close. If you come to shul in order to feel close, then the experience is something that is not better than not being in shul. The experience is a different galaxy, a different world. That's what we want. That's what this door wants. That's what's being provided for us in this door. Now, you could see it through technology. You could also see it with the Ribui. Reb Nassim Breslover said, you're going to see this before Mashiach comes, about the printing press. In his time, what was his whole Mishigas? The printing press. But it was so hard to get things out. You had to go crazy in order to get things out. He says, it's a whole Torah in Parshas Vayechi, when it comes to the brachas of the sons of Yaakov Avinu. I forget which son it was, which bracha it was, but he suddenly goes off on a whole piece about when before Mashiach comes, there's going to be this crazy growth, this outburst in the world of the printing press. Why? Because people are going to need to get the Torah so much faster, and they're going to have to spread it so much faster, so much wider. That's what's going to be. That's what there's going to be a need for it. So all things in life that have the ability to bring us closer, when they're used for the opposite, it's devastating and it's heartbreaking. All things in life which give us the opportunity to be closer, but we use it for the other way, it mamish breaks your heart. It kills us. The devices that we could use in order to be infinitely closer to each other, that are used in order to take us so much further from each other, it's absolutely devastating. It kills us. So I give us a bracha today, Yom HaShoah here in Eretz Yisrael. It should be, Be'ezer Hashem, a schus for us to crack our hearts wide open, and to Be'ezrat Hashem become Chassidim, and to become real Chassidish Zionists, the way that he's speaking about it today. All right, Shekoyach, everybody.
So clear.